You know, first it was the systemically racist police. Now it's the systemically racist judges and the systemically racist juries and the systemically racist justice system. Yeah, right. But the felon, no. All right, let's check it out. This is Joy Reid. Oh, and Al Sharpton. Oh, I can't wait. This is MSNBC. Puts these people on, gives them a platform. This is them the other day. Go.
This is what we expected to happen, because I think we have to keep in mind when we're watching the criminal justice system at work that it was designed to do exactly what it did today. Gun laws helped to enhance the design to allow this verdict to happen today.
Wait. The right to bear arms goes back thousands of years before this country was ever in anybody's mind. That is the right to defend yourself. Whether it was your fists, whether it was clubs and rocks, whether it was knives and swords, whether it became gunpowder and guns and whatever it is, people have a right to protect their lives, to protect their physical being, to protect their families, to protect their homes. This is instinctive. This is part of the human DNA. It's also part of the animal DNA. So it's not that the Second Amendment was created to allow this sort of white supremacist jury and so on, whatever she's got going on in her sponge for her brain. No, one doesn't follow the other. One didn't follow the other. The reason we have a Bill of Rights is to protect us, these rights that we have as human beings from government. Go ahead.
This country was built on the idea that white men had a particular kind of freedom and a particular kind of citizenship that only they have.
What does that mean? Is that what the Declaration of Independence says? You know, I think Joy Reid's parents were immigrants into this country, something like that. Maybe it was her grandparents. They came into this country, I assume, voluntarily. Her family never experienced any of this. Her family has only experienced great things in this country. She is a very wealthy woman. She gets in front of a TV camera. In this case, she's at home in front of her whatever. They go into these studios, all these hosts. They get makeup. They're treated like kings and queens. Maybe they'll have a donut or a bagel or some grapes before they go on the stage, and then they speak into the camera. They pat themselves on the head. Then they have drivers and vehicles that drive them home to their apartments or to their homes, and they're down for the revolution. But where she's not is in the streets, where she and others are lighting fuses for animosity, for jealousy, for hate, for bigotry, for racism. It's now being pushed in the media. And there was a study done by a gentleman by the name of Goldberg, who was getting a PhD at the Heritage Foundation, and it's in American Marxism. And he shows that in a period of a year or two, and he uses as examples the New York Times and the Washington Post, their references to racism, to white supremacy, and those sorts of things jumped up 1,500% in the Washington Post and 1,200% in the New York Times in the last couple of years. And this phrase, white supremacy, now is sort of an ambiguous, generic phrase. We used to know what it meant. It meant these clowns running around in white sheets, or the neo-Nazis, and that is real racists, real black haters or Hispanic haters. Now they mean the entire white majority society. And people are supposed to just sit back and take it and not comment and just shake their head. Well, you're right. What an awful society we have. She says this system was set up, this legal system, for white people. Now, let me ask you something. If the whole system was set up for the white person, why was Kyle Rittenhouse charged in the first place? It was set up for the white person. Well, that's a lie, and she knows it's a lie, but it doesn't matter. She's an activist. She's a Marxist. She's a racist. She's a bigot. The idea that Comcast would allow her to have a primetime show 5 days a week, 7 p.m. Eastern time, despite what they found on her social media and her lies to try and cover it up, that somebody hacked into her social media and put these horrendous things about gays and Jews and other things on there. But look, she's there. They have Sharpton as a part-time or weekend host. And so they spew these things. This is what I meant when I started the program. The Democrat Party and their media, they're destroying this country. They're destroying belief in this country, inspiration for this country, the next generation. That's why they basically supported all the violent rioting 2 summers ago and covered it up as mostly peaceful and so forth. That's why in certain cases they censor, like they did in the Rittenhouse closing statement by his lawyers while playing the prosecutor's closing statements. That's why you have people like Jaylene Rose at a basketball game on ESPN standing next to Stephen A. Smith, going on about how Blake was murdered by the cops, and this is just another example of what goes on at Kenosha. I think he thought 2 of the people who were killed were black. Well, of course, Blake wasn't murdered. Blake had just molested his ex-wife or girlfriend. She called 911. The cops come. They tell him to put up his arms. They want to take him into custody. He keeps walking around his car. You've seen the video, right? He has a knife. He reaches in his car. He gets a knife. They tase him. It doesn't do much. And then he becomes incredibly violent, and they shoot him. So he wasn't killed. The cops were not charged with a damn thing. He had attacked his ex-wife or girlfriend. And this is the problem. Another ex-felon. And so the Democrat Party and the racists and the CRT advocates will defend people like this, despite the fact that 5 minutes earlier he was abusing a woman, a black woman. And you look at this guy, Rosenbaum, who Kyle Rittenhouse shot. Multiple domestic abuse convictions, multiple felonies, rape of little girls in the most horrendous way. Look at this guy, Huber, multiple domestic violence charges. You look at this other guy, what was his name? Goose Craphead, whatever his name is. I don't remember, it doesn't matter. Another one with felony records. Violent. Nobody ever says, why were they in Kenosha that night? They had to know people were going to be rioting. So what the common thread here isn't race. The common thread here is these are criminals. These are criminals. But the Democrat Party relies on felons as part of its base. It wants to expand it. And so comes to their defense. Go.
You know, from the slave catchers on, the right to inflict violence in the name of protecting property. That's
wait. From the slave catchers on. I had no idea what's the right to protect property. Let me ask you a question. It appears to me that Joy Reid is living in a home or an apartment there. What if somebody breaks in? Do you have a right to shoot them? To protect property? I think you do, because you don't know what those people are going to do. This right to protect property is not just with the white man or the white woman. This right to protect property you'll find on every continent on the face of the earth. Whether it's majority African American, whether it's Middle Eastern, whether it's Southeast Asian, anywhere in Europe, whether it's south of the border. You break into somebody's home, or you try and steal something from them. These are basic things. You know, the golden rule and these eternal truths go back well before this nation was a nation. It goes well before Columbus came to America. It was well before the Vikings came to America. The Aztecs practiced it in the south of North America, Central and South America. I mean, I could go on and on and on. It's absolutely preposterous. And when you see what happens when property is not protected, you see what's been going on in San Francisco and Chicago, how stores are being broken into and broken down, and how they're leaving, how they're being looted and losing money. You see that CVS and Walgreens are leaving cities because prosecutors say a certain amount of theft is okay by them, and the cops can't get there fast enough, or there aren't enough cops. That's what property rights are all about. And as I said the other day, what are property rights? You break your back earning a living. Maybe you spent 30, 40 years and you're retired now, or maybe you're in the middle of building a career and having a family and earning money and so forth. That's private property. That money, whether it's in a bank account, whether it's in a home, whether it's in an automobile, whether it's in investments on things that you happen to like, stamps or coin, whatever it is, that is your hard-earned labor. If somebody steals your property, they're stealing your labor, your physical and intellectual labor. They're stealing a part of you. You have a right to property in a thing, a right to property in real estate, because it's a right to property in this and this, because you've applied what limited time you have on the face of the earth to working. So people who don't work, or people who haven't spent the labor to acquire what you've acquired, they don't have a right to steal it. That's kind of involuntary servitude as well. So they're not just white people defending their property. And white people, by the way, I hate to tell, have a right to defend their property, as do black people and all other people. But listen to how she theorizes. Listen to how her perverse, unhinged mind functions. Go.
The foundational creation of the United States. So it would have been shocking. The real, as I'm glad you mentioned the Derek Chauvin verdict, that was the surprising verdict. This should have been unsurprising. But what I do think we have to think...
Should have been unsurprising? Unsurprising to her would have been if Kyle Rittenhouse was found guilty defending himself. I'm telling you, this Marxism is a horrific poison. It is so bizarre. Go ahead.
It's not only the families of the two men...
Shut up. I've had enough of you.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.